In several lessons, we have seen some things called HTML entities, and they look weird. It looks like an ampersand, a couple of letters, and then a semicolon. We've used it for forcing a line break, or not a line break, well, it's non-breaking space, but an extra space in the page, it's ampersand NBSP semicolon. And we tried to write HTML inside of our code, but it doesn't work because the browser renders it as regular HTML. And so that's a problem. So in this video, we're going to look at HTML entities and how we can actually write HTML inside of our page so that the browser doesn't render it as HTML. So it reads it as regular text. So I just have VS Code open here. You're going to want to open whatever editor you're using. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, as long as it can write HTML files. And let's go ahead and save this as HTML_entities.html. Let's give this an HTML5 template. And let's call this entities. So a really good example of this is when you want to write a particular character. For example, let's say I want to talk about divs. Yeah, let's do this. Div apostrophe S, let's get rid of that one. And let's boot this up in our browser. So I'm going to open this up, HTML entities. Let's close that tab, that's not useful. And it says I want to talk about, and then there's a break in here. Let's go ahead and make that larger. There's a break in here between the word about, apostrophe, and S. And if we view that source code, we're going to see there's a div in here, and it's colored the same way as other HTML. Like you can actually see that it's breaking the body here because there's no closing tag. So at this point in time, your browser is going to look at this and say, okay, there's a body tag. And then there's a div tag inside of that, so a child element. And because there's no closing tag yet, /body is also a child element of div, and /HTML is also a child element of div. And that's not right. We learned in the XML video that breaks proper nesting procedure. So let's go ahead and close that. And let's discover how we can actually make that show up. So in HTML, we don't always want this to display as HTML. And there's going to be a lot of scenarios where this comes up. So we can do this by writing an HTML entity, and there are a lot of them, like tons and tons and tons. I'm only going to go over a few of the most common ones that I typically use, but you might end up running into even more down the road. So after this video, don't be afraid to do a little bit of research and figure out which HTML entities there are. And VS Code is doing me a pretty big solid here. This is really cool. Character entity replacing the greater than sign. That's pretty cool. Okay, so that's somewhat cheating in my opinion, but also great. So let's do less than and let's do greater than. So these are HTML entities. An HTML entity, well, I'm going to make this way bigger so we can see this nicely. Always starts with an ampersand, always ends in a semicolon, and has some variation of letters in between it. So we have seen this already with NBSP. There we go, nailed it. Which is a non-breaking space. And that basically just adds an additional space into our page. Because HTML, or browser rather, is going to say, oh, there's extra space, let's compress it down into one space. And we're saying, nope, don't do that. We actually want an extra space. In this case, we're adding LT, that is the less than symbol. And this one is the greater than symbol. So let's refresh our page. And now we have a greater than and less than symbol in here. And we can put anything in between it. So I'll just make that a little smaller again. Let's go ahead and replace this div with, this is the less than symbol and the greater than symbol. So we simply type and LT for less than and GT for greater than. Let's go ahead and delete those to clean that up. Save, refresh our page. Refresh our page. Oh, look at that. There it is. And it shows up the way we want. So let's view our page source and we're going to see that, okay, these don't show up as regular HTML. And that's good. We're telling the browser don't use regular less than and greater than signs. We're telling it to use a represented state of less than and greater thans. This way it doesn't render it as HTML, but it renders it as a regular text character. Now there are several other ones that we're going to want to take a look at here. So let's go ahead and make a list. Let's do UL, LI, and the first one we're going to do is a bullet. So this is a bullet point. This one's actually going to be a funny example, so let's put some text in front of it. Text in front. Because it's a list, an unordered list, we're going to see a bullet point in front of it anyways. But with this little guy, we can actually force a bullet point anywhere we want. So let's put like 3 of them in a row. Next one, a very, very common one, is the copyright symbol. So this one is just and copy semicolon. And you can see here, character entity representing the copyright symbol. So let's do this, copyright symbol. Another super popular one is the and sign. So it's like, how do we represent this? Well, we just do ampersand, the and symbol, AMP, semicolon. This is the and symbol, the ampersand. Next, we have greater than and less than, greater than, amp, less than, there we go. So we've got 3 in a row there. So that's going to say greater than, the greater than symbol, ampersand, so an and sign, that guy, and then a less than symbol. And let's do a couple arrows here. So we have a couple arrows in here, RARR. So this is a right arrow, and you can actually see the character entity representing an arrow. So this is a right arrow. Let's create another one. This one's going to be LAR and LARR. So it stands for L for left, arrow. This is a left arrow. And let's do 2 more. Let's do and RACWO. So we're going to see basically these 2 little signs here. That's going to be hard to see on the video. I apologize about that. But 2 little, they look like chevrons pointing to the right. So let's call this double right chevrons. Or chevrons. I don't really know how people say that across the world. I think it's different. And then again, we also have the left one. So the left chevron. Will this one show up for me? And let's do and LA. There it is. Right there. That's the one we want. Love that little preview. Double left chevrons. All right, let's go ahead, save this page, and let's go and refresh and see what these look like. So we've got our bullet points. We've got 3 bullet points. We can actually select these too. We can't select the list ones, but we can select these because it's considered text. We have a copyright symbol. We've got an ampersand sign. We have 3 entities in a row here. We've got a greater than, an ampersand, and a less than. We've got a right arrow, a left arrow, and a double right chevron and a double left chevron. So those are the most common HTML entities that I tend to use on a daily basis. Again, there are a lot more of these. So what I would like you to do, your task for this video is to, very simply, you don't have to do all of these because there's going to be a place and time for you to learn those. But I do want you to be able to write a sentence with HTML inside of it. So just write out the sentence, I want to talk about divs. And it should look like this. If done right, you're going to be able to save your page, open it up in your favorite browser, and you're going to see the less than and the greater than symbols. If you don't do it right, you're not going to see that, and the div is going to render as an actual div, and it should break into a new line. So it'll just look like I want to talk about, and then it breaks to a new line with nothing in it, apostrophe S.